The meaning of the movie. Author Orpheus for Reading for Minutes, published on the 22nd of April 2021, updated on the 22nd of April 2021 at the Cannes Film Festival. The Killing of a Sacred Deer was honored for being the film with the best screenplay. The motion picture was released in 2017. It was shot by Greek director Yorgos Lanthimosoa. One of the genres of the movie is detective. And this is evident throughout the whole movie, because the feeling of understatement does not leave for a minute. It all starts with the fact that the hero, Stephen Murphy, a successful surgeon, who has a wife and 2 children, periodically meets Martin, a teenager, in the cafeteria. The 2 men have lunch together and Stephen gives Martin a very expensive gift. At the beginning it is not clear who they are to each other. But in the course of the story it is learned that Stephen did the operation in a slight alcohol intoxication, perhaps because of this. He did not cope with his work and the patient died. It turns out that this patient was Martin's father. Martin is left without a father and his mother is a widow who cannot feed her family. Importantly, it is never clear whether alcohol intoxication was the result of the patient's death or whether it was not Stephen's fault. Even at the end of the movie this mystery will not be solved. The plot twists at the moment when Stephen decides to invite the kid to dinner and introduces him to his family. The evening itself passes gloriously, and Stephen's daughter even shows interest in Martin. And afterwards, the worst happens. Both of Stephen Murphy's children fall ill with an incomprehensible deadly disease. It turns out that Martin is either a vengeful deity or just a man with inexplicable abilities. To save the children, the doctor kidnaps a teenager and keeps him in the basement, but it doesn't help. Martin explains to Stephen that he must bring justice by paying for his father's death with the life of one of his children. Stephen is utterly desperate and agrees to fulfill Martin's wish. With the help of chance, the choice falls on his son, whom Stephen has to kill. The movie ends with a strange scene. The Murphy family and Martin are having lunch in the cafeteria and look quite happy, as if nothing had happened. Stephen's daughter casts meaningful glances at the teenager, as if forgetting that he was responsible for her brother's death. Everyone in the scene eats a lot and looks like nothing happened. So what is the point of this movie? There are actually 2 levels of meaning. The first is mythological. The children are paying for the sins of their father. This story is in various myths. For example, the myth of Artemis' sacred stag, that's where the title of the movie comes from. Martin introduced a new plot twist to the myth, since in the original version the atonement was at the cost of his own life, not the life of the child. And the point of the story is that every mistake has to be paid for. It turns out that Stephen was really guilty of the death of Martin's father, so he will be punished. And that's why the family looks so calm, no matter how creepy it sounds, but the debt has been paid, which means that life goes on. Similar plots we met even in the Bible, when God asked to sacrifice a son. Another level is the condemnation of the US society, which lives in mindless consumption, which causes tragic events in other countries. Stephen Murphy as a surgeon personifies America. He interferes with both political and economic life of other countries through surgical intervention, and he does it in an unacceptable way. Naturally, such interference leads to terrible consequences. America has to pay for its deeds by the lower society, in the person of Stephen's son. And here the ending can be perceived from a completely different angle. The avenged party sees how American society has finally forgotten about its past atrocities and quietly enjoys fast food, returning to uncontrolled consumption. The movie, Killing a Sacred Deer, is very multifaceted, leaves no exact answers. Therefore, everyone must decide for himself what he sees in this movie. After all, the interpretations of the 2 meanings are already contradictory. Was the sacrifice an atonement and purification that allowed for peace? Or was the act a diversion, and in fact the father felt nothing? Perhaps everyone must choose for themselves. Admin.